Hello and welcome. My name is Matthew Jarecki and I am the Jerk. It is so nice to be in with you guys on a Tuesday morning. We are talking about sports and talking about life. As always, we have a very packed show for you today. What a blessing. Like 2 weeks out of the NBA season, and it's the most interesting sports week all year. I couldn't wait to come in this morning. We are on KJACK LP 107.1, Flagstaff, Arizona. Catch us on Facebook Live or at kjackradio.com. You can call in 928-523-4554, 928-523-4554. So some people today, if I can just get right into this, some people today will tell you it is officially the NBA offseason. But on the Jerk, I want to keep it 100 with you guys. I want to give you guys the truth, authentic and unapologetic. This ain't the NBA offseason. This is the NBA musical chair season. And while 29 NBA teams circle around the chairs while that music plays, Golden State already has their seat. They're sitting back on their throne, watching and laughing as the league scrambles to do something to either stay competitive with the Warriors or to just adjust to basketball life as the Warriors continue their dynasty. This is what great does to people. Teams that were once competitive suddenly take a step back and recalibrate and just say, we're going to wait this thing out. Teams that thought they were close, like the Cavs heading into the NBA Finals, or teams that were heading into the Eastern or Western Conference Finals, suddenly start making irrational decisions. The NBA is in frenzy mode right now. Teams are playing musical chairs, and Golden State planned ahead. They brought their own seat to the game. They drafted their stars. Their management, their coaching staff is better than yours. And while they sit back and wait for Steph Curry and Kevin Durant to take pay cuts so that they can stay immersed in the winning culture that Golden State has created, the Clippers are in flux. The Bulls, meanwhile, willing to trade their only star, Jimmy Butler. The Knicks, it's now being reported, willing to let go of Kristaps Porzingis, their only star. And the Cavs, to put the cherry on top, have now parted ways with a guy who was more vital than you think to that organization in Cleveland, and his name is David Griffin. He was the Cavs GM. When you have the rest of the league reacting to the moves you make as a result of the culture you've established, when you're in everybody's head, that's success for the Golden State Warriors. When you're an employee and your company is catering to your needs, giving you the time you need in a pinch, giving you that raise, and giving you the exact schedule that you need in order to stay with them, that's when you know you've worked hard enough to make a significant impact on that company, when they know for a period of time, if you left, they'd be screwed without you. So they give you whatever you need to stay. Golden State and Bob Myers, the GM, and Peter Guber and Joe Lacob, the owners, are sitting back right now, belly laughing, as they watch Dan Gilbert let go of one of his most important assets. They're watching Cleveland scramble to make moves to pick up Paul George and Jimmy Butler, moves that will put them further in the luxury tax, move that, in the end, make the team less organic, and Golden State all the while have one decision to make, and it ain't that big. They have to make the decision, do we keep an old, injury-prone Andre Iguodala for more than he's worth, Or do we just let him walk away? And you better believe if Golden State lets Iggy walk away, an old veteran will come in, take way less than the 16 to 20 million that Andre Iguodala wants, and be a fine contributor for a championship team that has a culture instilled. I keep telling you guys, Golden State has become the Patriots of the NBA. Players are willing to take less to stay or play with them. Golden State develops their players like you didn't think they could. Draymond Green in the second round, Klay Thompson with the 11th pick. They have a different way of thinking than the rest of the league. And every year that their way of operating proves to be flat out better than the rest of the league, it seems that teams make more and more irrational and emotional decisions. How many times have we seen it over the last 10 years with the Patriots and the rest of the AFC East? The Bills go out. They sign Mario Williams to a record-breaking deal just to go get Tom Brady. You know what Mario Williams did during his 4-year stint in Buffalo as a defensive end with a record-breaking contract for the Bills? He sacked Tom Brady a total of 3 times. That's what you got from Mario Williams trying to take the head off Tom Brady. The Jets and Bills said, okay, defense isn't the answer. I think we need a quarterback to keep up with Tom Brady. So the Jets reached on Geno Smith. The Bills reached on E.J. Manuel. And those two quarterbacks combined produced 18 wins total. And they're now on different teams. This week will be fun. This week will be full of trade rumors. I'm pretty sure there's going to be actual trades happening. The draft is on Thursday. I cannot wait. But all the while LeBron is subtweeting Dan Gilbert because he let go of David Griffin, while Kristaps Porzingis is apparently on the trade block, I don't know if Phil Jackson's just messing with people in New York at this point. They should check his mental health. While all that happens, Cleveland and Bob Myers are sitting back, belly laughing. It is now being reported Kevin Durant will decline his option and become a free agent momentarily with the Warriors just to sign with less. That's what the Warriors are dealing with right now. It just shows you create the winning culture, you draft well, you do the groundwork, the chips will fall into place. As for Cleveland right now, we're going to get into that next segment. We're going to break down this entire David Griffin firing for you guys. I don't think LeBron's happy with it. I don't think the Cavs last very much longer. I think now Jimmy Butler trade talks cease to happen a little bit without their star GM, David Griffin. Because who do you talk to if you're not talking to David Griffin as the Bulls and the Suns, who were reportedly involved in a 3-way trade? And it doesn't look like the Cavs are going to be able to pull off Paul George. And it doesn't look like the Cavs are going to be any more competitive in next year's finals. There's a lot happening this week. One thing we know, the one certain during this entire draft week, Golden State's going to be just fine. Golden State's laughing at the rest of the league. Golden State is a step ahead of the rest of the league. And Golden State is now becoming the Patriots of the NBA. Again, this is the Jerk 107.1 KLJXLP, Flagstaff, Arizona. You can go to the show's Twitter feed at The Jerk Show. You can go to the Facebook page, The Jerk with Matthew Jarecki. You can go to my personal Twitter account. Just type in my name, Matthew Jarecki, Jarecki. You can call in today, 928-523-4554. We will be back after the break. This is The Jerk. Welcome back to The Jerk. I'm Matthew Jarecki. I am The Jerk. We got a packed show today. There's a lot of stuff happening in the NBA right now. We just got word today, Kristaps Porzingis on the trading block for the Knicks. I don't really know what Phil Jackson is thinking. You know, what's conventional wisdom in the NBA right now? What do most of us who are NBA fans, what do we all know? It takes about 3 to 4 years to really become a star in the NBA. Kristaps developed a little bit sooner than most stars because he played over in Europe for a while. I don't get this. I have heard Phil Jackson wants to replace Porzingis with Lauri Markkanen. Maybe this has something to do with the fact that Porzingis has been not so subtle in his tweets about how he feels about the Knicks. Maybe Phil Jackson is spiteful at the city of New York. Maybe Phil Jackson wants to get all good players away from Carmelo Anthony. I don't get this. Granted, the Knicks are kind of irrelevant right now, but Kristaps Porzingis, one of those marquee not free agents, but guys on the trade block that can really have a significant impact on next year's NBA season. But the big news today, the biggest news of today, Dan Gilbert and David Griffin. Dan Gilbert is the owner of LeBron James's Cleveland Cavaliers, and David Griffin was the GM. David Griffin played a vital role bringing a lot of those role players in while you have LeBron on a max contract, Kevin Love and Kyrie on big contracts. David Griffin did a good job. And you talk to anybody around the league, very good GM. They're planning, the Cavs are, to bring in Chauncey Billups to be the new president of basketball operations. First thing I want to do here, just to break this down for you guys, just to give you an idea of how important David Griffin was to this organization. There's an NBA reporter, Adrian Wojnarowski. He does great work. He's one of the most connected guys in the NBA. And here he is on a podcast talking about the role David Griffin played for the Cleveland Cavaliers over the last 3 years.
But what's interesting to me is, and people may not know, they've got a really good front office in Cleveland, really good young guys. You've got a group of Trent Redden and Kobe Altman and Mike Gansey and some names that people aren't familiar with. I would say last summer, almost every one of those guys were pursued by at least one team, some by more than one team. And I'm talking some elite franchises in the league were trying to pick their guys off. I know that there were franchises who offered those guys more than they were making in Cleveland. Every one of them stayed. And to a man, I think the main reason they stayed was how much they liked working for Dave Griffin, how much they respected him, the kind of leader they feel he is, and how loyal they were to him. Now, was part of it, yeah, we won a championship and we want to ride this wave with LeBron, and winning is fun to be a part of. Absolutely. But in the end, when it's your career, if somebody offers you double your salary and a higher position perhaps somewhere else, like you're not playing shooting guard with LeBron, you're in the front office, you're going to probably make that move.
So you hear what he's saying, right? Number one, the Cleveland Cavaliers, their front office, highly underrated. It gets overlooked because they have the best player in the world, LeBron James. It is hard. Here's the story that nobody ever reports on. You got to dig deep to find out this stuff. LeBron James, very needy. Dan Gilbert, hard owner to work for. Now, LeBron James is painted as the hero in Cleveland. However, when you put together Dan Gilbert, one of the most unreasonable owners to work for, and LeBron James, one of the neediest superstars in the world, that's a hard combination to work for in the front office for Cleveland. And David Griffin was holding that thing together. There didn't seem to be a lot of incentive to let David Griffin go. Here are the two takeaways I have about this thing. I think Dan Gilbert wanted to bring somebody in that he could control. A guy that doesn't have the experience of a wily veteran GM like David Griffin. A guy like Chauncey Billups, who doesn't have a lot of experience in the NBA front office. And a guy that apparently has a good relationship with Dan Gilbert. I think Dan Gilbert is one of those guys, was sick of being opposed by David Griffin, wanted to bring in Chauncey Billups. Here's the thing, though. My other takeaway is I think LeBron's out after this next season. The Cavs, as it stands right now, are not talented enough. They are outclassed by the Golden State Warriors. You think you're going to bring in Chauncey Billups with that salary situation, and he is going to bring in the marquee free agent? Is that what you think, Dan Gilbert? I don't. If I am Dan Gilbert right now, and I know that I am at risk of losing LeBron James because LeBron James is a big game hunter, and if any situation looks more appealing next year, and David Griffin, kind of the leeway man between him and Dan Gilbert, is out, I think LeBron James is gone. If there is any situation in the NBA next year that looks like it could, how do I say this? If there's a situation after the end of next season that looks more prone to win LeBron James a championship, I see him leaving for that, especially if that situation is out west. Dan Gilbert parted ways with David Griffin. He's going to bring in Chauncey Billups, inexperienced, won't be able to get the good deals done, won't be able to bring in those bench players that can really make an impact when you get to the NBA Finals. I just don't get it. And I think a lot of basketball reporters, everything you read, people say, what was the motivation behind this, Dan Gilbert? Why let go of your most experienced front office guy, the guy holding your front office together, to bring in a guy that's inexperienced? And Chauncey Billups is going to inherit $85 million of luxury tax heading into next season. Doesn't make much sense to me. I don't think this Cavs team gets significantly better during this offseason. I think Paul George was the answer, and even then, I don't know if they beat the Warriors with Paul George. I don't like Jimmy Butler as a scorer or a defender as much as I like Paul George. I don't think he takes them over the top. And I think after this season, if the Cavs lose another NBA Finals, LeBron James ain't messing around anymore. David Griffin is gone now. That's less of a reason to stay with Cleveland. I think there's a very real chance, if there is a more viable situation out there, that LeBron James leaves after next season. All right, we'll be back after the break. I'm Matthew Jarecki. This is The Jerk. Welcome back to The Jerk. I'm Matthew Jarecki. I am The Jerk. There's a lot of stuff moving in the NBA right now. I am just trying to keep up with it all. Big news story of the day. David Griffin is out for the Cleveland Cavaliers. He was one of those guys. You know, in football, we know the GMs. They're stars. Half of these GMs in the NFL, they're like household names in certain parts of the country. We generally don't find out about these GMs in the NBA. We know Bob Myers for Golden State has done a spectacular job building that thing. David Griffin, probably a guy you guys don't know, but a guy, if you ask any basketball insider, he held that Cavs front office together. It just seems like, we're still waiting. The way these news stories work is they come out one day, and then it generally takes 2 or 3 days for all of the information to leak out. We are still waiting to hear all of the information. The real reason usually comes out about a week later. And we're going to get the real reason why Dan Gilbert parted ways mutually with David Griffin. I have a feeling David Griffin wanted to go all in, helping LeBron James this year. And I have a feeling Dan Gilbert's a little bit insecure about that whole situation. Dan Gilbert didn't like the control and the knowledge that David Griffin had. And I have a feeling that Dan Gilbert is now preparing for LeBron James to leave. And I think the Cavs have a shot to get Jimmy Butler in a three-way trade now. I don't know who the Suns are going to talk to and who the Bulls are going to talk to now if they want to partake in this deal, because now David Griffin, GM for the Cavs, is out. But I have a feeling, even if the Cavs get Jimmy Butler, I don't think he makes the impact that Paul George would have made on a championship run, because Paul George would have been able to defend Kevin Durant. He's long enough. I don't think Jimmy Butler's the defender that Paul George is. I don't think Jimmy Butler can score like Paul George. What I do think is, if the Cavs lose again this season, and they will be in the NBA Finals going into next season, if the Cavs lose again, doesn't matter if they get Jimmy Butler, I think LeBron James, if there is a prospect out there, if there's a team out there that he thinks he can compete for a championship with, he's out in Cleveland. He's not doing Dan Gilbert any more favors. We've heard a lot of stuff. His family doesn't like being in Cleveland. Just because you're from a place doesn't mean you love being there. And we've heard a lot of stuff about, LeBron James, his wife doesn't want to live in Cleveland. They don't like the owner. They feel very disrespected by Dan Gilbert. And now the one guy that was kind of the middleman between LeBron James and Dan Gilbert, who was David Griffin, the GM, he's out. So it's going to be an interesting situation going forward. Thus far, the Cavs haven't done anything to get better, to get more competitive with the Golden State Warriors. And so far, I would argue, Golden State this offseason, believe it or not, has done more to stay competitive than the Cavs have, because now we're getting reports that Kevin Durant's taking $4 million less. He's opting out of his deal to take less money so that they can sign more cheap veteran free agents. That's just the culture that Golden State has created. And it's funny, you look around this league, what is happening in the NBA? Teams are now backing off. Teams don't want to be in that middle ground where they're winning 45 games a year. Teams want to be bad now. Teams want to wait this Golden State thing out. Look, the Clippers are in flux right now. We don't know what's going to happen to Chris Paul. We don't know what's going to happen to Blake Griffin. We don't even know what's going to happen to DeAndre Jordan or their coach, Doc Rivers. Clippers are in flux, thinking about flushing that thing out. The Bulls, willing to trade Jimmy Butler now. The Knicks, we just got news today, willing to trade Kristaps Porzingis. What does all of that tell you? We're going to get value for our stars and just wait this thing out. What is the death sentence in the NBA? Getting rid of a star. How do you win in the NBA? Stars. It's different than football. In football, you can largely put together, like the Seahawks, a roster full of late-round picks, and you can win a championship like that based on defense. How do you win in the NBA? You need 2 or 3 stars to win a championship in today's NBA. Now we see teams willing to unload their stars. What does that tell me? Golden State is having a significant impact on the rest of the league. They're getting in everybody's head, and nobody wants to compete with them right now. They'd rather back off, get value for their stars, get draft picks, and build for 4 years down the line when Golden State can't afford to keep everybody together anymore. All right. We will be back after the break. I'm Matthew Jarecki. This is The Jerk. Welcome back to The Jerk. I'm Matthew Jarecki. I am The Jerk. Tuesday morning, 9:40. We are in Monday through Friday, 9 to 10 a.m., KLJX LP 107.1, Flagstaff, Arizona. You can call in 928-523-4554. You can watch me on Facebook Live. Just go to my Facebook page, The Jerk with Matthew Jarecki. You can go to the show's Twitter page, at The Jerk Show. You can go to my Twitter page. Just type in my name, Matthew Jarecki, Jarecki. So, it's a big week. NBA news. Got trades flying all over the place. Really, nothing has happened yet, but trade rumors are flying all over the place. And while I do this show, there's actually a lot happening, and I can't keep up with it all. So forgive me if I miss something. But right now, here's what we know. The Cavs have moved off of their great GM, David Griffin. Nobody in the NBA really understands this. What it looks like to me, Dan Gilbert's a little bit insecure, doesn't think LeBron's going to be there after next year, wants to bring his own guy in, Chauncey Billups, that he can control a little more. Personally, the way this looks to me, you bring in Chauncey Billups, it makes no sense because the guy has no front office experience, and he's going to have to deal with an $85 million luxury tax and big contracts with LeBron James, Kevin Love, and Kyrie Irving. And not to mention, the Cavs really didn't look close to the Golden State Warriors as far as talent goes. They need more. And you're going to bring in Chauncey Billups to bring you more? A guy with no GM experience? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Unless he has some kind of crazy connection with Jimmy Butler or Paul George. Doesn't make any sense to me. The other thing we know, the Cavs are trying desperately to get Jimmy Butler. Now, I think this improves their team. I think he's a better defender than Kevin Love, and I think he can provide what Kevin Love can scoring-wise. They're not the same player, and I don't think when you bring in Jimmy Butler, you're bringing in a guy that can take you over the top like Paul George could. You know, I heard something interesting about Paul George, who it doesn't look like the Cavs are going to be able to acquire. The thing I heard about Paul George, which I strongly believe, you bring in Paul George. Remember during the NBA Finals and throughout the playoffs, LeBron would go out, he'd sit, and there was an amazing plus-minus stat where when LeBron James sat, the Cavs lost and lost and lost. I mean, LeBron James would sit for 2 minutes, they'd be down by 10 points against the Golden State Warriors. And actually, when LeBron played, they were +2 or something like that. They won those games when LeBron was playing. And I think when Paul George, if the Cavs were able to add a guy like Paul George, LeBron goes out, Paul George can run that offense. I mean, as much as I love Kyrie Irving and as much as I love his handles, he's inefficient. He can't run an offense by himself. His play is highly predicated on LeBron James being on the court. So I don't know if Jimmy Butler can do that for the Cavs. I've never seen Jimmy Butler as a dominant offensive player. I think he's a very, very good two-way player. I think he's Kawhi Leonard light. But I don't think he brings them over the top. So that's the other thing. We have David Griffin out in Cleveland. Cleveland's also trying to bring in Jimmy Butler. I'm not sure this whole Griffin thing helps that situation at all, because now who's facilitating the trades? Is the rest of that front office going to stay there in Cleveland? And the other big news is, now, all of a sudden, the Knicks are willing to trade their only star, Kristaps Porzingis. I don't really get it. But you know what? With all this flux happening in the NBA, you know who looks really smart right now? Danny Ainge for the Boston Celtics and Sam Hinkie, rest in peace, for the Philadelphia 76ers. It's funny, nobody wants to ever... It is funny, the Sixers kind of... Sam Hinkie's slogan was, trust the process. And Sam Hinkie received a lot of criticism, some deservedly. He put that fan base in Philadelphia through some tough times. In a city that loves the NBA, he put that fan base through some tough times to get those first-round picks. There's no denying that. But now they have Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and they're about to have Markelle Fultz. You know, nobody ever wants the process in the NBA. In the NFL, we're fine with it. In fact, we'll criticize you if you go out and get a highly touted free agent in the NFL. It's almost always looked down upon because rarely do NFL players with the injury risk, rarely do NFL players live up to the contracts they receive. But in the NBA, if you don't go out and get a huge free agent, or if you don't try, you're highly criticized. Sam Hinkie was driven out of the 76ers organization. Danny Ainge, every single year I see these basketball nerds taking a dump on Danny Ainge because he won't spend his draft picks for these stars. Well, look at right now. Who looks really good in the NBA right now? The 76ers and the Boston Celtics. The Celtics are in the middle of a rebuild. They're right in the middle of it. It is nowhere near complete. And they're in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they're probably going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals this next year with a better wing defender and a better wing player, Josh Jackson. 76ers, lost, trusted the process. Now they have Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Markelle Fultz. That's a real core of young stars. We always want to say, go recruit the superstar. Look at how Golden State did it. Look at the Patriots of the NBA. Look at the most successful team, and it's going to be the most successful team over the next 3 to 4 years, and you could argue, have been over the last 3. Look how they did it. They drafted and developed Steph Curry, Klay Thompson with the 11th pick, Draymond Green in the 2nd round, and then they added a marquee free agent. So I think, with the Knicks, I don't know what Phil Jackson's doing over there, but with the Knicks shopping around Porzingis, the Bulls are now shopping around Jimmy Butler. The Cavs look like a dysfunctional organization right now. All that being said, look who looks smart. 2 guys that trusted the process, Danny Ainge and Sam Hinkie. Rest in peace. All right, after the break, we're going to talk a little bit. We have some Tiger Woods news. Tiger Woods is getting professional help. He was using opiates. We're going to talk about that after the break. I'm Matthew Jarecki, KJACK LP 107.1. This is The Jerk. Welcome back to The Jerk. I'm Matthew Jarecki. I am The Jerk. Great show today. A lot of information. NBA draft on Thursday. I will not be working. I'm going to watch that thing. I don't know where you can watch it. I should probably have that information for you guys. I have no idea where you can watch the draft, but I do know it's going to be 76ers. It's going to be the Lakers. It's going to be the Celtics. Past that, who really cares? I do think Markelle Fultz is exactly what the 76ers need right now. Ben Simmons, that guy's incredible. I watched that guy play in the NBA Summer League last year. Granted, it is the Summer League, but, incredible court vision, playmaker, handles the ball very well, can't shoot. Maybe right now he can shoot, because these NBA players, when they get into the NBA, get better coaching than they've had their entire careers. And a lot of them tend to be better shooters in the NBA than they were in college. So we're going to have, the jury's out on that one. But you got Joel Embiid, one of the best big men when healthy in the NBA. Had a great rookie season last year. Ben Simmons, one of the guys with the best vision in the NBA. And I know that's early to say it, but it's true. We will all see it this coming year. And now you add in Markelle Fultz, a sharpshooter. He can spot up shoot. He can handle the ball. And he can create offense. He's just what the 76ers needed. And then the Lakers at 2, almost sure to take Lonzo Ball. He's my favorite player in the draft. I think he's a ready-made star for the Los Angeles Lakers. I went on, I think it was earlier this week or maybe last week, and I said, listen, if you're the Lakers, I know De'Aaron Fox is appealing, and I think De'Aaron Fox is going to be a really good player. I know Josh Jackson brings a lot of tenacity to your team. But the only ready-made star in this draft, Lonzo Ball. He's the only guy. His dad did 8 months worth of groundwork for him, going on ESPN's First Take, going on Colin Cowherd's show, going on the best shows in the country, and making a fool out of himself making himself a household name, making the big baller brand. If you know sports, you know the big baller brand right now. That's a result of LeVar Ball and now Lonzo Ball, who is soft-spoken, doesn't say a lot, is said to be a leader on the court. He comes in, he's a ready-made star. In my opinion, he's the 8th biggest star in basketball in America today. You add him to the LA Lakers. He is said to be a guy that can take all your C players and bring them up to a B player, give everybody 8 more shots a game, give everybody 5 more points a game. Now you got a ready-made star in LA, so you got Lonzo Ball probably set at number 2. And at number 3, it looks like the Celtics will be taking Josh Jackson. If we don't see some sort of blockbuster trade for Paul George, although sources have said the Celtics would be willing to trade their 2 first-round picks next year for a guy like Jimmy Butler. So, there's a lot moving right now. There is a lot moving right now in the NBA, and you know who's just sitting back and belly laughing at all of it? Bob Myers, who's going to sign Kevin Durant for about $4 million less in a couple days, and Steph Curry, who's going to take a little bit less but still get a big contract, and the rest of that Golden State organization, they're all sitting back and belly laughing as the league scrambles to make moves to either set themselves up for years down the line when the Warriors fade away, or, to set themselves up to be somewhat competitive with the Golden State Warriors. But it's funny, you look at the chess pieces around the league, there ain't much there. Like, we talk about LeBron James might leave after next season because he's not happy that Dan Gilbert let David Griffin go. The only problem I see with that, the Cavs might be the best team LeBron can muster up when you look at the rest of the stars in the NBA and their contract situations. That's the only thing I see. Golden State's really set up for the next 3 to 4 years to be a dynasty like Boston way back in the day or LA way back in the day. Golden State, and it's funny because we have all these rules to prevent dynasties, right? Golden State's set up for the next 3 to 4 years if that ownership is willing to pay the luxury tax, which I think they will be because I think it's more profitable to pay that luxury tax and to win championships and to create a dynasty. Golden State's really set up for the next 3 to 4 years to be a dynasty in the NBA. Again, the NBA draft is on Thursday. Those are the first 3 picks. It's going to be, Markelle Fultz, Lonzo Ball, and Josh Jackson. Boston could use a wing player. I don't think it's going to take Boston over the Cavs, but I think if you're Boston right now, you're in the middle of a rebuild. You didn't think Markelle Fultz took you over the top, so you keep Isaiah Thomas in there as your holdover point guard as you rebuild. You let Jaylen Brown develop more going into next year, and he played well this year. You have 2 first-round picks next year, so you have options if you're Danny Ainge. What the Celtics are doing, pretty damn smart. Josh Jackson's going to be on the wing. Isaiah Thomas, you still have Jay Crowder. And next year they have 2 first-round picks. They could go after Gordon Hayward in free agency, and they could trade the 2 picks next year for a star. So it's going to be a very interesting week. I have a feeling news will drop throughout today. Either today or tomorrow, I have a feeling one of these trades gets done, whether it's Paul George to the Lakers, because I think the Lakers are getting antsy on that thing, or whether it's Jimmy Butler somehow going to the Cavs, if somebody steps up in that front office and is able to make that deal with David Griffin gone. I think one of these deals gets done, and kind of the black sheep here is Kristaps Porzingis. We don't know what's going to happen with him. All right. Thank you for being with us today. We are here 9 to 10 a.m., Monday through Friday. It's called The Jerk with Matthew Jarecki. You can hit us up on Twitter at The Jerk Show. Go to my Facebook page, The Jerk with Matthew Jarecki. Go to my personal Twitter account, Matthew Jarecki. Just type in my name, Jarecki. We will be back tomorrow. This has been The Jerk.